Santé.
Santé. La Ville Lumière.
The city of light. That's how it got
That's
it.
how it started.
I love it. A little secret spot.
Exactly, right up here on the hill.
Good morning from Paris. I'm on board the Viking Carry in the shadow of the Eiffel Tower. Is there any more iconic spot in this beautiful city? Join me as I explore some of my favorite sites. Samuel?
Hi, yeah, that's me.
Jean.
Nice to meet you, Jean.
Lovely to meet you. Thanks for coming to show us your Paris.
Oh, I'm happy to do it. It's my pleasure.
Oh, I can't wait. Viking docks at Port Grenelle, a prime location in the heart of Paris and the shadow of the Eiffel Tower. The Grenelle district is also a calm oasis in the city with every convenience nearby, from the metro to Monoprix to the pastel treasures of La Durée. We're at the metro.
Yeah?
I love the Belle Epoque metro signs
Yeah,
everywhere.
absolutely. They're iconic.
But it is close.
It's very
how far
close.
did we walk?
5-6 minutes from the ship. Yeah,
It's perfect.
Yeah.
I must say, I'm not comfortable on a lot of international metros. This one I can navigate.
It's easy to use, it's clean, it's reliable, and it's affordable.
That's what I was going to say. It's inexpensive. You get a carnet,
Yeah.
they call it, of 10
Yeah, it's a
tickets
10-pack, yeah.
and see the city.
Nice and easy. Absolutely.
Okay, I have everything I need. Bakery, Monoprix, metro. Let's
Great.
go back to
You're
the
feeling
ship
settled?
and get ready to see that. Well, those are highlights, but more highlights.
Sure.
Thanks, Sam. I know where we are because I'm a Napoleon enthusiast.
Yeah.
Les Invalides, Napoleon is buried here.
Yes.
His son, the King of Rome, Napoleon II, is buried here. But I don't know how he got here, and I don't know a thing about the building.
Yeah, so it goes back a little bit further than that. The building itself was built by King Louis XIV. The same king who built Versailles, the Hall of Mirrors, all of that. He wanted to build, back in 1670, a building for his soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
He ruled for 72 years, and he spent 32 years of that reign at war. And so when his soldiers had a war to fight, and it was great news for them, they were paid, they had jobs, things like that. But when France was at peace, it was good news for everyone except the soldiers. They found themselves unemployed and often homeless. And in Paris, the biggest city, it was a big problem. And so in 1670, he asked his architect to build for his soldiers a place where they could live, a place where they could work, and that's what most of this was. As the construction is going on, he decides that he wants to have them build for himself and his family a small, modest, humble little chapel.
Okay.
Nothing fancy for Louis.
Just lots of gold.
It's 107 meters tall, 23 pounds of gold on the roof, and that was meant to be a chapel just for his family. It took them almost 30 years to build the church, and he attended it once. And it wasn't quite his fault. He died shortly thereafter, but he did technically only visit it once. And time marches on. Eventually, this is also, like you said, where Napoleon came to be buried. That was a different Louis. That was Louis Philippe,
Okay.
who was the last king of France. He ruled from 1830 to 1848, and he decided that France needed to give Napoleon Bonaparte a proper resting place.
Understood. So how, I know that the King of Rome, Napoleon II, died at Schönbrunn. I saw that in Vienna. His death mask. How did his body come to be brought here?
Yes, that's a very interesting story. It didn't happen until the Second World War,
Oh,
when a man named Adolf Hitler visited Paris. Hitler, of course, when he visited Paris, wanted to see the tomb of Napoleon. He admired him very much for being
I
a
didn't
great...
realize he admired him.
Yeah, he liked him a lot for being a great military strategist. for being a man who was able to unite most of continental Europe under one single flag.
Makes
all
sense.
all these things that Hitler himself was trying to do. And when he visited, he was sort of appalled to see that Napoleon I and Napoleon II, father and son, were in the same place. It's no problem. Vienna is also part of his empire.
He had taken over Austria, so...
Yeah. And so he ordered the transfer of Napoleon II to here so that the two could spend all of eternity together.
The threads of history.
Yeah, especially at a building like this, they're very, very dense.
Well, and the thing that always amazed me is Napoleon II's mother, Marie Louise, was Marie Antoinette's niece.
Absolutely.
And just the happenstance of history.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
much. I would love to go in, have to do it another time. We have one day here.
No, there's a lot more to see, though.
Allez-y.
Let's go.
I love this bridge, the Alexander
Who
III, but tell me the history.
So this is the Alexander III Bridge. It was a gift from Tsar Alexander III of Russia to celebrate the Franco-Russian alliance that had taken place.
About what year?
1900.
Okay.
Is when it's inaugurated. 1900 is also when France's World's Fair took place once again. And that
Huge
year,
world.
Huge, massive. And that year, the big feature was the electricity. So the lanterns you can see
Oh,
were already electric when it was inaugurated in 1900. 1900 was also the year that they converted a lot of their lights on the streets from gas to electric, and Paris got its nickname, La Ville Lumière.
the city of light. That's how it got
That's
it.
how it started.
That is
yeah.
wonderful. Well, it is a gorgeous, gorgeous bridge.
Yeah,
But you told me before we came up, the Russians never paid.
they never paid for it. They said they were going to, they never paid. But we have this beautiful bridge, and it's also the only bridge that spans the Seine without any pylons. So you can see this very smooth, graceful arch.
Elegant.
Very,
Very elegant. Very Belle Epoque.
very, very Belle Epoque. Absolutely.
The city of light. Now I know.
Now you know.
Allez-y. Sam, I recognize the Musée d'Orsay. I know it's Belle Epoque,
Yes.
which to Americans is Gilded
Gilded
Age,
Age,
which we
absolutely.
love.
Yes.
But I'd love to know a little more history about the building.
Sure. So the building itself was originally a train station built in 1900 for the World's Fair. The idea was that people visiting the World's Fair would arrive via train, and they could get off right in the middle of the city and just stroll down the banks of the Seine to get to all the new attractions that have been built for that year. The problem is that as time went on, the trains got bigger and bigger, and they couldn't really fit into the tunnels anymore.
Oh.
And so, by the 1970s, it wasn't really functional.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until 1986 that they decided to do something different with it. And they decided that they would turn it into an art museum. And so maybe you, or you know people who visited Paris before 1986, maybe they saw art that's now in there that was in the Louvre.
So they moved
They moved, yes.
from a certain period.
Yes, so from 1850 to 1914 is the collection that's inside of the Musée
Okay.
d'Orsay.
Okay.
People tend to associate it with the Impressionists, but there's much, much more inside. There's Orientalism, the beginning of photography, there's symbolism, there's all sorts of wonderful things in there. It's a very, very rich collection.
It is a gorgeous building, but I'm just becoming fascinated with how critical the exposition or World's Fair of 1900 was to the whole city.
Oh, absolutely. So Paris hosted 5 different World's Fairs, and we have little bits and bobs all over the city that are sort of left over from them. The Eiffel Tower is a great example, but even things like this that look a little bit more subtle or more innocuous than the Eiffel Tower, it's really, if you know where to look, you can find them all over the place.
Sam,
Yes.
this is Thomas Jefferson.
It is, yes.
Well, Jefferson, well, now I'm certain it is, but I know he was the first ambassador to France, but why is he here? On the bridge or d'Orsay?
So, something a little bit different. You can see the statue here, it's very modern, it was added relatively recently.
Okay.
There's a statue of Jefferson here, and he's looking over sort of across the streets. But
Okay.
not at the Musée d'Orsay, he's looking at the building there with the French flag on it. That is the building that inspired his home, Monticello.
Oh, I kind of see the dome.
Yeah.
I kind of see it.
So, legendary Francophile Thomas Jefferson spent a lot of time in Paris. He actually lived in a private mansion that was on the Champs-Élysées that has since been torn down. But one night, so the story goes, he attended a party at the house here and actually met the architect and was able to ask him for the plans for this building that he liked so much because he really liked French neoclassical design. And that's what
I had no idea.
Yeah. And so that's what he used for his own home, Monticello. And so what they did here is, if you look at the sheet of paper, he's holding
I
in his
see the
hand.
drawing.
Exactly.
Doesn't look much like Monticello today.
No, so it says, first plans, initial plans for
okay.
his home, Monticello.
Doesn't have the dome or it's hidden behind. But that's fascinating. Well, I knew he went broke buying wine here.
Yes.
And visited the wine route you can still follow of Thomas
Absolutely,
Jefferson.
yeah.
But now you can follow his architectural inspiration.
Yeah, so you can either just admire it from the outside, or if you want to go inside, it's a museum, but it's a museum for people who have received the Legion of Honor.
This is our creperie.
Sam was amazing. He was so much fun to be with, and his wealth of knowledge astounded me. I thought I knew Paris well, but he taught me so much more. Beyond dates and kings, he knew the stories that made the sights come alive. I want to tour all of France with Sam.
In the shadow of the tower. Santé. I love Montmartre, and on a beautiful sunny day, we're in the shadow of Sacré-Cœur.
Yes.
Tell me when it was built.
So the Basilica of the Sacred Heart was built between 1875 and 1910. And they built it to be perched up here on the top of Montmartre Hill. It's the tallest hill in the city. It's all the way to the north of the city. So it's overlooking all of Paris.
Beautifully so.
Yeah.
But where are you taking me now?
So I thought I'd take you sort of off the beaten track here in the village to show you a few little things. Just around the corner, we have Paris's only vineyard.
Up here on Montmartre?
Yeah.
I haven't
up here in
seen that
Montmartre.
before.
All right, let's go check it out.
Okay. So you brought me to the only vineyard in Paris?
Yes, so this is the only vineyard within Paris proper. There are about 1,700 vines here, and they make rosé wine.
Is it wine for communion at Sacré-Cœur?
So it tastes a bit like that. It's not the best wine that's
Not
made
a compliment.
No, it's not the best wine that's made in France. But nevertheless, every year once the wine's ready, they have a big festival up here, and they auction the bottles off. They're all sold
that sounds
individually.
fun.
Yeah, no, the whole community gets into it, and because the vineyard is owned by the city, it's not privately owned or anything like that. All the wine, the proceeds from the sales, goes directly back into the community.
I love it. A little secret spot.
Exactly, right up here on the hill.
Okay, show me another.
Sure.
Or show me a baguette.
Sure.
Just the word Montmartre conjures up images of the artists Toulouse-Lautrec and can-can dancers. And while today's artists may not be as familiar as those who worked here in the past, including Dali, Modigliani, Monet, Picasso, and Van Gogh, the district's spirit has not changed. We saw the wonderful sights of Montmartre, but sitting outside a cafe, enjoying coffee and pastries while watching the artists create and sell their wares was the true highlight of our visit.
This is one of my favorite squares in Paris. I know it's Place des Vosges.
Yes.
I know the perfect weather has changed a little as the wind
little
is
bit,
blowing
yeah,
the
it's going to
fountain, but
happen.
it's still beautiful.
Still Paris.
One of my favorite places is Victor Hugo's apartment over in the corner where Les Mis was written.
Yes.
But I don't know the origins of the square, and I would love to because the architecture is stunning.
Sure. So this is a square that was initially built by King Henry IV, who was the grandfather of Louis XIV.
So what you're talking, 1500, late 1500s?
Late 1500s. This was started in 1605.
Okay, close.
Yeah. And it was the first public square for the city of Paris, actually.
Oh.
Paris used to be very crowded and cramped, and it was a city that didn't have any space where air could circulate, where people could breathe. And so to come to a square like this, where you had symmetry in the architecture, and sort of a nice geometric layout for the square, it was something that you didn't have anywhere else.
Well,
and so
it was the blossoming of the Renaissance.
As well, yeah.
This was, as the first square, the first
In France,
visualization of it.
And so it was a gift from the king to the city. In total, we have 5 different royal squares in Paris. Concord Square is a royal square, Place Dauphine, Place des Victoires, others as well, Place Vendôme. But this is the very, very first one.
It's just perfect in its smallness and its symmetry.
Yeah.
And just a very cozy place where everyone picnics, everyone comes.
Yeah, and one of the things that the French do very well with their public space is they're very good at compartmentalizing the space so that you feel like you're having a quiet, private moment, even though you're in a public square in the middle of a city.
I think this is my favorite of all. Place de la Concorde in the history, but this is just human-sized.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
a great
wonderful.
example of it. Yeah.
Well, let's walk on to somewhere else.
Very good.
Ready for dinner.
Are you?
Thank you.
Good.
And this looks very typical French. Is this where our guests come?
It is, yeah.
The neighborhood is gorgeous. Tell me where we are.
Yeah.
And pronounce the name of the restaurant, because I'm not going to even try.
Sure. So we're located in the neighborhood of Les Halles. Just on the other side of this little street out here, on the other side of these trees, there used to be the main food market for the city called Les Halles. Halles. It's not there anymore. It was torn down. But the neighborhood all around here sort of has little traces of its legacy. Okay. And this restaurant is one of them.
Oh.
The name of the restaurant, Le Louchebem, Louchebem, isn't a word that you're going to find in a dictionary.
Okay.
It's a slang term for a butcher, and the slang is the language that the people who worked in the market used to use. They had their own sort of slang for every single thing. And so a Louchebem was a butcher.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's why we have the cow, the
bull.
Exactly,
yeah.
Okay.
So the whole decor around here as well, there are photos of the old butcher shops and different things like that as well, yeah.
Okay.
And you see the different cuts of beef available as well.
So I would assume, because of the location and the focus on food, these are some of the most typical French restaurants around here. I mean, this is not a group restaurant.
No. You'll see lots of locals here. It's right in the heart of a neighborhood. People come here on their lunch breaks from work or for dinner. It's really a nice little spot.
Okay. I know they are going to bring us a meal, and you can explain it when they bring it, or they can, but we need to drink something.
Sure.
So what would be a typical wine for Paris, or do they pull the wines from all over the country?
So here they have wines from all around the country.
Right.
They have a nice little wine list, and it's labeled by region.
Okay.
And I mean, traditionally, when you have meat, specifically beef here, you're going to have a glass of red wine with it. So they have a nice selection of red wines here as well.
Okay.
They have Bordeaux, Rhone Valley, a sort of Loire Valley as well. A little bit of everything, yeah.
Okay, well, maybe we'll ask what they recommend with
that's always a good
dinner
idea.
that we order. Or maybe we'll just have champagne and toast that we made it through a day of Paris highlights. It's
always
been great.
For me
it's
as
not
well.
over yet until
Not
we
yet.
finish
No.
eating, but it has been great. Dining in the La Halle district alongside many locals was a real treat. Our servers, contrary to the image of aloof Parisians, were so charming and ensured we not only enjoyed our meal but learned about their lives and families. They even ignored my broken French and applauded my feeble efforts to converse. Today I learned about the history and highlights of Paris. In the next episode, I experience it all again, but through the flavors of Paris and France. Pastries, cheese, wine, and chocolate. It was a day to savor and wonder how I could repeat it again and again.